Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredibly unexpected yet deeply fascinating journey. We're going to look at how powerful voices, combined with dedicated, in-the-weeds groundwork, can actually tackle massive, seemingly unfixable systems. Whether it's a devastating civil war or a fundamentally flawed food environment, we are going to explore the raw mechanics of how systemic change actually happens. All right, let's dive right in.
So what on earth do a legendary Chelsea striker and a UK food policy report have in common? I mean, on the surface, they seem completely and entirely disconnected, right? One involves international geopolitics and the beautiful game, and the other involves corporate accountability, public health data, and, well, the cost of vegetables. But as we'll see, these two sources are actually united by a really powerful common thread: the incredible ability of high-profile advocacy to spark a fire, and the absolute necessity of sustained groundwork to fix systems that are failing people. Part 1. A footballer halts a war. The unlikely peacemaker.
If you followed football back in the mid-2000s, you know that under Jose Mourinho at Chelsea, Didier Drogba was a total firebrand. He was this fierce competitor who almost embraced a sort of villain role in world football. But on October 8th, 2005, he revealed a completely different persona. The Ivory Coast had just qualified for the World Cup for the very first time in their history. Back home, though, the country had been torn apart by a devastating civil war for 3 years. It was the government-controlled South fighting the rebel-held North. And right there, amidst the wild locker room celebrations, live on national television, Drogba did something extraordinary. He dropped to his knees, prompted his teammates to do exactly the same, and delivered this plea. He said, "Today, we implore you on our knees. Forgive one another. Do not let our rich country be ravaged by war. Lay down your weapons." In that moment, he didn't sound like a footballer at all. He sounded like a president.
And you know what? It actually worked. This wasn't just some fleeting PR stunt. A footballer achieved almost overnight what international diplomats had been struggling to do for years. Drogba's single high-profile plea catalyzed a breathtaking succession of events. Within weeks, they had an initial ceasefire. When Drogba won the Golden Ball for Africa's Footballer of the Year, he brought the trophy straight to the rebel stronghold of Bouake, declaring that it belonged to the whole country. That bold move led to a fresh, formal ceasefire in March 2007. By June, the national team was actually playing a match in that very rebel stronghold. And get this, in August 2007, the president and the rebel leader literally burned their weapons together in that exact same stadium, formally pausing the civil war. One incredibly powerful voice sparked a massive systemic shift.
Part 2. From pitches to policy, a new arena for advocacy.
Now, advocacy isn't just about stopping wars overseas. It's also about fighting for everyday survival right at home and fixing domestic systems that have quietly but systematically failed millions of people. Just as Didier Drogba used his massive platform to halt a civil war, we saw a very similar dynamic play out recently in the UK. Marcus Rashford, another incredibly famous footballer, used his voice to fight for free school meals and food equality during the COVID-19 pandemic. Rashford basically became the ultimate champion for school-aged children, teaming up with real policy experts like the Food Foundation. He proved to us that the exact same high-profile spark that can stop bullets can also be used to feed children and challenge deeply entrenched government policies.
Part 3. The 3x cost of health, the UK food crisis.
So what exactly were Rashford and the Food Foundation fighting against? Let's transition into the hard-hitting, data-driven reality of our systemic food crisis. And it all boils down to one crucial number: 3x. Healthy foods cost exactly 3 times as much as less healthy foods per calorie. Let that sink in for a second. 3 times as much. We hear it all the time, right? People just need to make better dietary choices. But how can they? Why is healthy food so outrageously expensive? Well, the system is fundamentally structurally skewed. Think about it. Ultra-processed foods benefit from massive economies of scale, and they have insanely long shelf lives. That makes them incredibly cheap to produce, to ship, and to store. On top of that, agricultural subsidies heavily favor cheap commodity crops over fresh fruits and vegetables, which of course have much shorter shelf lives and way higher transport costs. Because of this massive structural imbalance, the unhealthiest food in the country is by default the cheapest food. When healthy food costs 3 times as much, eating well isn't a choice anymore. It's a financial luxury.
The downstream effects of this 3 by cost gap are literally devastating, because the cheapest foods are the absolute most unhealthy. Diabetes-related amputations have actually spiked by 18% over just a 4-year period. The environment itself is overwhelmingly stacked against public health. I mean, 1 in 4 places to buy food right now are fast food outlets. But the real kicker here, the part that really hurts, is the stark systemic inequality. To simply meet the cost of a healthy diet, the poorest 20% of households would need to spend a whopping 39% of their disposable income. The richest 20%, they only need to spend 8%. It is a total structural failure that aggressively punishes the poorest among us just for trying to eat well.
And we have to remember, behind all these percentages are real people, real families. During the summer holidays, when the safety net of those free school meals suddenly vanishes, a staggering 1.4 million children are reported experiencing food insecurity. That is 18% of kids aged 8 to 17 facing actual hunger. They're skipping meals or eating much less because their families simply don't have the money to bridge that 3x6 cost gap. This isn't some abstract theory. This is a daily, urgent crisis that demands relentless advocacy.
Part 4. Fixing a broken plate. Solutions for systemic change.
Okay, so we aren't just here to doom scroll and admire the problem. How do you actually force change when the economic incentives are so fiercely stacked against public health? This is exactly where the Food Foundation's Plating Up Progress initiative steps in. Because remember, if change doesn't happen at the supermarket and the restaurant level, it's probably not happening at all. They are the gatekeepers to our diets. So the Food Foundation uses these really precise scorecards and metrics. They track everything from the sale of nutritious products to climate change impacts to human rights. By making all of this data incredibly public, they hold these major food corporations accountable. They are essentially forcing them to transition to healthy and sustainable practices. It's a highly targeted, data-driven approach to untangling a massive systemic knot. And the results of this sustained, in-the-weeds policy work, they are massive. 162 million. Through a grassroots initiative called the Peas Please Project, which successfully brought together farmers, major retailers, and government departments, they actually delivered 162 million extra portions of vegetables into the UK food system. To put that into perspective for you, if you laid 162 million carrots end to end, they would stretch more than halfway around the earth. And they've made a firm commitment to push that number to 3 billion. It absolutely proves that when you meticulously track the data and build strong, cross-industry coalitions, you can actually rewrite the rules of the commercial food landscape.
Part 5. The power of advocacy. High-profile sparks and sustained groundwork.
So bringing both of our narratives together today, we arrive at a really profound realization about how the world actually changes. True systemic change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires two distinct forces working in tandem. First, you need the high-profile spark. The Didier Drogba dropping to his knees on national television, or the Marcus Rashford commanding the global media's attention to force the world to wake up and look at the problem. But to actually fix it, to turn that spark into a lasting structural reality, you desperately need the sustained, tireless groundwork of policy experts, the ones tracking the data, building the corporate scorecards, and figuring out how to deliver those millions of extra vegetables. So I want to leave you with this. Take a hard look at the broken systems in your own life and in your own community. What are the issues hiding right in plain sight? And more importantly, how can you use your voice or support the experts doing the heavy lifting to drive real, lasting progress? Keep questioning the systems around you and absolutely never underestimate the power of advocacy. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.